Call of Duty Warzone and Black Ops 6 Season 6 has just been released, and I'm going to help you guys get the absolute best performance with the lowest latency, as well as improve image quality and visibility. You can see my benchmark tool results here, and while I can't guarantee that you'll get the same performance uplifts, I can assure you that you will still get something useful out of this guide, whether it's Windows tweaks, Nvidia control panel settings, config file setup, in-game settings, and so much more. So let's get started. First up, you need to download the config files from my Google Drive. These are already tweaked for maximum performance, but we'll go in and tweak some stuff later that'll help with your specific CPUs. Next, you'll want to download VibranceGUI. This tool lets you adjust digital vibrance per application or game, and this will come in handy for visibility. And finally, download the Nvidia app. We'll be using this to override DLSS to the latest transformer model. I will be showing you side-by-side comparisons for everything we do as always, and links to all three will be down in the description below. So before we get to tweaking stuff, make sure you have the latest driver for your GPU. Now this is going to be a bit of a coin flip since every driver after 572.83 has had performance regressions on the GPU side. So if that's the case for you, then just roll back to 572.83 and it should be fixed. Alright, now we can get on to the good stuff. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is ignore that folder on the top left and come to your Windows search. Type in game mode. And if your game mode is not enabled, go ahead and turn that on. It's just going to help turn off a lot of the background processes like telemetry and stuff that takes up your CPU performance. So once that's turned on, click graphics. And now you're going to see a list of games and applications. Windows is already pretty good about detecting the stuff that's installed on your PC. But if for whatever reason your game is not showing up here, just click browse. Go to where you install your game and find the exe. So for COD, it's in here. Click add. And once it's added, come over here to COD and click options. And in here, it's you're going to want to click high performance, right? So you might have a dedicated graphics card as well as an integrated graphics card. Most likely if you're on a laptop, you're going to have like two in here. So make sure it's on the high performance dedicated GPU and click save. Once that's done, come over here to change default graphics settings. And so first up is hardware accelerated GPU scheduling. You're going to want to turn this on for reduced latency and improved performance, as well as frame generation, DLSS frame generation. This setting is mandatory for you to use that, so make sure this is enabled. Next is variable refresh rate. You're going to have this on if you have a high refresh monitor. Most of us do, so you know, keep this on. And next is optimizations for windowed games. This one's the most important here. If you are playing on full screen borderless or borderless windowed, this makes sure that your latency is within margin of error to full screen exclusive. As previously without this on, or if you're in Windows 10 and you're playing borderless, your latency is going to take a bit of a hit compared to full screen exclusive. It's not like crazy anything like VSync, but still, yeah, it's a good option to have on. And now we're going to move on to the Nvidia control panel settings. All right, so go ahead and open up your Nvidia control panel and come over here to manage 3D settings. Now, I'm just going to have you guys copy everything that you see on screen. I can't really explain every single thing here because it's going to take a lot of time, obviously. So the important ones are going to be that if you have a G-Sync compatible monitor or you want to use a variable refresh rate or FreeSync, go ahead and enable this. And anything else with shader cache size, you can keep this to 100 gigs or unlimited, which is going to help with shader caching in a wide variety of games. For Call of Duty, it's not going to be too big of a deal. This was an issue in Modern Warfare 19 early on, but yeah, for generally, you just want to keep something like 100 gigs. And texture filtering, high performance, not too big of a deal. And the other important thing is, if you want to use G-Sync, you're going to have to keep vertical sync on. This is going to give you a tear-free image, and along with reflex in game, it's going to be the clearest and tear-free image that you can have. So that's personally how I run the game, but it's preference in the end. And so, yeah, just go ahead and copy these settings. And some of the other stuff that you could change is, at least here, make sure your refresh rate is set correctly. You can use NVIDIA color settings, make sure you have the proper color depth. Now, you could put 10-bit in here if you have an OLED, but it's not going to do anything because when you enable HDR, it's going to switch to 10-bit anyway. So I just keep it at 8-bit and make sure output dynamic range is full and output color format is RGB. Color settings, make sure 50/50. If you want it to be reference, you could just keep it here. This is a stock digital vibrance. You don't have to touch this. I'll show you how to do digital vibrance on a per game or application basis with VibranceGUI. So you can keep it at 50% here so you don't fuck with Windows colors. Set up G-Sync. This is how I have it set up for windowed and full screen, and make sure this is enabled so that it actually applies to your games. Video color settings. make sure it's with Nvidia settings, go to advanced and make sure it's not limited. I know a lot of you are going to be at limited, so make sure it's the full color settings. And image settings, this is how I keep it. You could use RTX video enhancement. This is just going to be an AI that upscales any low resolution videos in Chromium based browsers. And I think maybe now Firefox as well. So you could check this if you watch anything that's like Twitch or low res videos, especially anime. This is going to make it look extra good and upscale to your monitor's resolution. So keep this on. And high dynamic ranges, if you have HDR enabled, you can keep this on and use RTX HDR in video. It's the same thing as video enhancement. So whatever Chromium based browser you have, if you want to try this out, go ahead and try this out. So that's pretty much it for the NVIDIA control panel. And now we're going to tweak the config files. All right, so for the config files, you're going to come over here to your Windows Explorer, go into Documents, Call of Duty, Players, and then you're going to see these 3 files here. These are your main config files for Black Ops 6 and Warzone. And now you want to open your folder that you downloaded from Google Drive for the config files. And this one's empty because, well, I think I already dragged them in here. But, you know, I'm going to show you anyway how to drag files. Wow. Okay, so now just replace those files in here with the ones from the config file from my Google Drive. And once you're done with that, click text 0 and text 1. So open both of these. They are pretty much identical. But I think the game reads both. So whatever I show you that we're going to do in text 0, just do it in text 1. It's not too much. So click Control F and type in renderer and click enter. So this is going to be for your CPU. This one's pretty important. So listen up. Renderer worker count. This is going to be the number of physical cores in your CPU minus 1. So I have a 9800X3D. Many CPUs out there are going to be 8 cores, right? So that's going to be 7. You don't have to change anything here if you have an 8-core CPU. However, if you have 6-core CPU or a quad-core CPU, God help you, you need to change this number. So for 6 cores, you have to put 5, okay? For quad-core, you also have to put 5. This game utilizes more than 4 cores at once, and if you don't have 4 physical cores, it needs at least a thread, to my understanding, for it to not drop FPS. So even if you have a quad-core CPU, put 5, okay? Again, 6-core CPU, put 5. 8-core CPU, put 7. And I'll explain this now just so you guys are with dual CCD CPUs like 9950X3D. Because you're going to be confused. When you go down here and you look at your specifications, right? You could do this for any CPU. You're going to search up like Ryzen 5600X, okay? It has 6 cores, but just in case you want to know the specifications, you go down here. You'll see this is your physical core 6. So put 5 in the config file. Anyway, so for 9950X3D, it's going to say 16 cores here. But the game actually only uses 8. These 16 cores are split between 2 CCDs. And it's only going to be using the CCD with your 3D Vcache. And so half of 16 is 8. So again, over here, you're going to put 7. All right? Physical cores minus 1, 7. That's going to do it for the renderer worker core count. And now press Control F and type in heaps. This is what they call rebar in the config file. Generally, for I would say 99% of you, this should remain false. If you put this to true, it's going to severely reduce your CPU, not utilization, but your CPU performance during Warzone gameplay. This is pretty bad because Warzone is already very CPU bound. And enabling this is not going to help you whatsoever, especially if you play Verdansk. So if you only care about multiplayer, maybe you could try it if you really, really need extra FPS on a GPU, like maybe 10, 15 extra FPS. Not guaranteed, but again, this has to be tested by yourself because everyone has different parts, right? So I can't really guarantee anything. But for the majority of you, just leave this at false. The config files already have it at false, but just in case, just wanted to explain what that does. And that's going to do it for the config file. Now we're going to go into the game and I'm going to show you how to set everything up. Go ahead and open up the game. And before we get to the game settings, I want you to come down to Task Manager and then click Details. Find COD.exe, right click and set priority to high. Okay. And then right click again, set affinity and disable this CPU 0 core 0. What this does is it's going to free up the game from sharing that core with Windows scheduling. And for whatever reason, that actually causes lower CPU usage. And now that we disabled it, you're actually going to get a slight bump in CPU frame time. You can compare in the benchmark tool to see the difference. It's going to depend on your CPU how much you get, but it's there. It's just free performance. And unfortunately, you're going to have to do this every time you launch the game, unless you use something like Process Lasso, which I highly recommend you guys search up and look at tutorials for. And yeah, other than that, let's get into the game and I'll show you the settings. You're going to disable the overlay, click graphics. Okay, so first option is going to be your display mode. This is preference. You can keep full screen exclusive or borderless. As we did the game mode tweaks earlier, it's optimized for windowed game modes. You can actually keep full screen borderless here if you want, and the latency difference is going to be negligible. Display monitor is going to be the main monitor that you're using, obviously. Display adapter. Now this one, make sure it's actually set to your dedicated graphics card and not your laptop or integrated CPU graphics card in here. In here, for screen refresh rate, make sure it's set to the full refresh rate. I've had several consults now where people have bought 240 Hz, 144 Hz monitors, and they were playing at 60 Hz for months. Do not make that mistake. Make sure this is set correctly. Display resolution is going to be the highest resolution for whatever your monitor can output. So make sure it's set to that. Aspect ratio you can keep on auto unless you want any of these specific aspect ratios. Automatic will do the job. Display gamma is 2.2. That's the default. Now this one is pretty important for visibility. I like to keep 65, but you can experiment with 50, 55, 60, 65. I wouldn't suggest going over 70 because the game is going to look pretty washed out otherwise. And we're going to supplement this with VibranceGUI, which I will show you later along with side-by-side for visibility. And you're going to see how much better it looks. Next is going to be Nvidia Reflex. Most people just keep this on and forget about it, especially since majority of you, I think, are going to be CPU bound in Warzone anyway. Otherwise, if you're GPU bound, keep on plus boost. This will keep your GPU clock frequencies up. So the power draw might be slightly higher, but it's going to reduce latency. And so if that's the case, keep it on plus boost. Eco mode, well, I don't really give a shit. Just keep custom. VSync off. VSync off again for both gameplay and menus. Custom frame limit. Now this one's going to be important. You need to find out what your average FPS is going to be by either monitoring your FPS during gameplay using any performance overlays, or you can run the benchmark tool and you could put that average FPS in here. I highly suggest you guys find it because as close as possible that you guys can get your CPU and GPU frame time to be synced, it'll just be a smoother experience and you'll actually even reduce your input latency further. So if let's say you're getting like 120 FPS, right? Just put 120 in here. There's no point getting like, 125, 130 sometimes. It's just better to have a proper frame pacing going with the reflex enabled that you're going to get the lowest latency. So that's pretty important, right? So figure out your average FPS and put that here. Then reduce menu render resolution. You can keep this on optimal if you want. Doesn't really matter. Pause game rendering, again, preference. Reduce quality when inactive. Yeah, that's good for just power saving. Focus mode doesn't really matter for me. HDR, this is again preference. You have an OLED and you want the dynamic range to be better. You can keep this on. But keep in mind, the dark spots are going to be much darker because OLEDs are basically pure black. So test this out and see how you like it. All right, so for graphic settings, the config files have already tweaked all of this stuff in here, right? All of this is already set, so you don't have to touch any of this if performance is all you care about, okay? So we'll just touch on this stuff right here. Make sure render resolution is 100%, which should be whatever your monitor resolution is. And you could reduce the resolution this way, but I don't suggest doing that, and I'll explain why. Dynamic resolution is very nice. Again, I don't really recommend that you do this, but if you really need it, go ahead and use it. Here's the important one: upscaling and sharpening. So by default, most people who want, I guess, the sharpest image, we all use Fidelity FX Cast for like 5 years or 4 years, and now that DLSS is actually updated to the transformer model, I will show you the side-by-sides and comparisons to this. You're going to see it's a very big deal. This is going to give you a huge performance on the GPU side, as well as sometimes better image quality, depending on which one of these you put, even at performance, if you're at 1440p or 4K. So again, I'll show you the side-by-sides, but just want to let you know, these are all here for you guys to use. For AMD guys, do not use FSR1. It's complete dog shit. Your only options are FSR3, Fidelity FX CAS, or XeSS. These are all going to suffice for your needs based on however much performance you need. Try and toggle all of these on and off and see how the game looks, and you can decide what you need based on the FPS you're getting as well. So for now, I'm going to keep this on DLSS performance because to me, for 1440p, this looks really good. And I'll show you the side-by-sides. Both of these are going to be off. Now, if you're a competitive player, if you give a shit, right, these have to be off. They're going to add 5 to 6 or maybe even more milliseconds of latency per frame. And that is going to cause input lag. It's not worth using unless your FPS is some stupid shit like 300 plus, okay, natively. So, and at that point, you don't really need this to be on right now. We don't have any, you know, super high refresh rate monitor. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, just keep these off. However, if you are really struggling to get like 60 FPS even, and you don't care about like getting the highest kills or winning, and you just want to play for fun, just want to run around with your friends, you could turn these on. If you have an AMD card, obviously turn on FSR3 in tandem with FSR3 performance here, and you're going to get a significant FPS boost. Again, you're going to incur a latency penalty by using this, but if you only care about just playing for fun, then go ahead and use it. VRAM skill target, this is going to be depending on how much VRAM you have. By default, it's 70, but you could also put it down to 50 if you really need. If you're not using DLSS up here, like let's say you're using Fidelity FX Cast, make sure variable rate shading is on. This is going to help with GPU performance again. All it does is it reduces the render resolution of things that are not in focus for the camera. Now, it's not going to really affect too much in the center of your frame. It's going to be really towards the edges or dark areas. You don't have to worry too much. It's just a nice toggle to have that's going to improve your GPU performance. So I highly suggest you keep that on. And like I said earlier, all this stuff is going to be already tweaked in the config file, so there's no need to touch it unless you want higher texture resolution and isotropic filtering. Any of these bullet impacts, you can keep this on. Now, if you want to see recoil, you want to test recoil patterns in the training range, you can keep this on. But everything else is set to as low as possible so that you get maximum performance. Go to readability and come to color customization. So this, you could set the color of yourself, your team, your enemy, and this is going to help for people with color blindness. You could choose whatever you want in here that'll align best with your whatever color blindness you have or whatever helps you see better. And this is the important part right here. Set to filter 2 for color filter. Set target to world and make sure the intensity is 100 and interface is 100. It's just going to make everything a little more vibrant. And this game could use more vibrancy because it's so dull and boring looking. So that's going to help with visibility. And that pretty much does it for the in-game settings. And now I'm going to show you the before and after tweaks that we did in the benchmark tool. All right, so here are the before and after for all the tweaks we just did. On the left side is going to be the in-game lowest settings at native 1440p with Core 0 enabled, CPU priority set to normal, and Windows tweaks off. And on the right side, we're going to have the config file with the lowest settings at native 1440p, Core 0 disabled with CPU priority set to high, and the game mode Windows tweaks as well as the NVIDIA control panel. And you can see we've actually gotten quite a bit of gain on both the CPU and the GPU side. And keep in mind, this is without any BIOS, CPU, and RAM overclocking or any graphics overclocking using Afterburner. This is purely just based on the tweaks that we did with the config files and in Windows. So given that, it's actually pretty sizable gains, especially if you have a mid-range or a lower-end PC. So I hope that's actually going to give you guys a noticeable improvement in frame rates. And now we're going to move on to VibranceGUI for visibility. Go ahead and open up the VibranceGUI exe that I had you download earlier. Come on, open, bro. All right, so this little program is really handy for adding digital vibrance to your games. Now, typically, what I know a lot of you will do is you go into the NVIDIA control panel like this, go to color settings, and then you'll adjust the digital vibrance here. And that actually affects the colors of your entire windows. And if you don't want to fuck with that, you can just use this little program instead. It's really handy. So first thing, make sure auto start with VibranceGUI is checked, right? So it'll start when you start your computer up and it'll be in the tray down here. And keep in mind, this does not have any FPS cost or latency cost. All it does is adjust digital vibrance the same way it does in NVIDIA control panel, but you have the option to not only do it on a per game or application basis, right? So for COD, if you're running the game in the background, you just click add. It'll show you all of the running process in the back. And if the game is here, COD, whatever, you can just click it and it'll add it. Otherwise, if you want to add it manually, click this and find Call of Duty, Retail, and then scroll down until you see COD.exe and click open. And it'll be in this tray here. Double click this to open it. And for me, I keep 80% vibrancy and that's good for me. But you could go 100, you can go 90, you can go whatever you want, and click save. And you could add other games as well if you want more color. So it's just going to be really handy for visibility, especially in Warzone, where it's a little dull. Well, it's a lot dull compared to other games, and color actually helps quite a bit with spotting people in darker areas, and it creates contrast. So now I'm going to show you the side-by-side with VibranceGUI on and off. So here we have VibranceGUI set to off with in-game brightness at 50, which is the default on the left, and VibranceGUI set to on with in-game brightness at 65 on the right. And immediately you guys will notice that there is a big difference in contrast, particularly in the dark spots up here where you can see it's a lot brighter. That's due to the gamma lift we did on the brightness slider in the game. So it's going to help you guys spot enemies in dark areas much better. Like right over here, that's pretty insane. They did do a good job with this map overall with like the remake of Verdansk, where a lot of the spots used to be much worse and like darker in the old game. I'm sure you guys remember that fucking rose skin proned or crouched in the corner. Good times. But yeah, this program again does not affect your FPS. It does not affect your latency, so feel free to use it. It's just a digital vibrance slider. And now I'll even show you a side-by-side freeze frame so you guys could see better in case it wasn't noticeable before. It's a pretty drastic like overall lift in gamma, so definitely going to help you guys spot enemies better. And now we're going to move on to the image quality comparison. So here we are with the image quality comparison between native 1440p Fidelity FX cast on the left versus 1440p DLSS performance using the new transformer model on the right. Immediately, if you look around, you're going to notice that the DLSS transformer model is cleaning up the image quite a bit. There is a lot less aliasing, geometry shimmering, especially in the back with the dirt, I'll point it out. A lot of edge aliasing has just been completely cleaned up. Even the text on the shipping container, you could actually read some of that now, whereas in the Fidelity FX cast, it can get a little muddy. So yeah, overall, I would highly suggest you guys try out the new transformer model. The benefits of it are going to be that you get more FPS. So it's kind of a no-brainer if you're GPU bound to just try it out, especially since the image quality is so comparable to native 1440p, if not better in many ways for image stability. I mean, you're seeing it for yourself. Look at on top of the container, look at the wood box. There's a lot of graininess to the left side, as well as just edge aliasing on the middle sheet in the middle of the screen right there. So yeah, please try it out. It's not going to harm anything. At the very least, it's just a free upgrade. And I'm going to show you how to upgrade it since I had you download the Nvidia app. It's a very simple process. But for now, we're going to go ahead and look at a four-way comparison between all the upscalers, and I'll show you the performance differences between them. So here I've laid out three of the most popular upscalers that would be widely used, along with native 1440p Fidelity FX cast. And let's just go from left to right. Native 1440p Fidelity FX cast is going to be the lowest performance because obviously it's native resolution. And all of these are running on an RTX 4060 PC with a Ryzen 5600. I figured this would be better than showing you guys the numbers with 5090 and 9800X3D. It's kind of redundant. This way, it's a little more easier, especially a lot of you guys are going to have similar PCs to this, so you can compare. Next to native 1440p is going to be DLSS performance. We already looked at these two, but you can see now that the performance difference is actually not too bad. You've gained like almost 20 FPS, and the image quality is just as good, again, if not better. Next is going to be 1440p FSR3 performance. This is highly shit. If you look at the rotating satellite, it's just a mess, along with the flickering tree in the background. This is not advisable at all to use in the game, especially in motion where things are going to get a lot blurry. I would highly suggest, even if you have an AMD card, to use XeSS. It's noticeably better. Again, look at the satellite rotating. It's able to keep the details as resolved as it can, and it's not shimmering or flickering as much. It's a little blurry, but hey, if you need the performance, go ahead and use it. And my top pick, as usual, is going to be the DLSS performance. It's just the best performance to image quality ratio. I keep saying performance a lot, but that's just how it is. So try these upscalers out based on whatever graphics card you have and your monitor's resolution. And now we're going to move on to the Nvidia app, where I'm going to show you how to override the DLSS to the latest transformer model. All right, and this is the last part of the video. So go ahead and open up the Nvidia app. And before we get to overriding anything, you're going to want to come to settings and then come down here to games and apps, click view and modify. And it's going to have these pre-made directories for whatever drives you have installed in your PC. But for whatever reason, if you don't see any of the drives that should be here with your games installed, click add. And then you can go ahead and choose that drive and click select folder, and it'll show up right here. And then you can close this and click scan now. It's going to scan for the games. Obviously for me, I already have everything scanned, so nothing's going to show up. But once that's done, you're going to go to graphics and you're going to see a list of all of your games and applications in here. And you're going to find Black Ops 6. You're going to scroll down, ignore all this stuff here. We've already set the graphics and settings, so do not let Nvidia app optimize your game. That's going to override all of the stuff we did, so watch out for that. So you're going to come down here to DLSS override model presets. Click this, and then click use different settings for each DLSS technology. Go to super resolution and click latest and click apply. The latest is going to be preset K, and that's pretty much it. You've overridden the older DLSS file that comes with the game, and now you have the new transformer model. Well, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide and it helps you out. And if you still need more help, comment down below and I'll try to get to you guys as fast as I can. Otherwise, these guides can only do so much, so hit me up on Discord. It'll be on the screen right now. If you need PC tuning services for your CPU, RAM, and GPU, I'll try to get you guys up and running for the best fucking performance you can get for Battlefield 6, Warzone, Black Ops 7. So yeah, hit me up. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Stick around because I'll have more game guides and benchmarks, especially for Battlefield 6 very soon. See you in the next one.